G'day and welcome to Redriven, and welcome to the electric car that feels like it doesn't want to be an electric car, the Nissan Leaf. See, what I mean is that unless you knew that this was electric from the outset, it doesn't feel the need to shout that it's all electric and different, like say a Tesla or a Polestar or even a BMW i3. In fact, this might just be the perfect electric car for conversion therapy. And what I mean by that is, see, I live in an apartment block and most of my neighbours are over 55 years old, and they've all made it very, very clear to me that they just don't trust electric cars. Now, that's partly because they're completely confused and terrified by anything that involves technology, but mainly because, like a lot of the population, there's just a few question marks hovering over the longevity of electric cars. Which is why in this video, we're going to find out what actually goes wrong with the Leaf. What do they like to live with? What do they cost to own and operate? And, should you buy one?
The original Nissan Leaf was launched in 2011. However, in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Australian variants of this second generation Leaf, which appeared globally from 2017 and which is still currently available as a new car. However, while stylistically the second generation car marks quite the departure from the original and, let's be honest, slightly bubbly looking first generation Leaf, under the now more angular design lies an incredibly similar 5-door hatch platform and mechanical package. The only major upgrades, besides the slightly aggressive aesthetics and improvements to the levels of tech and equipment, was an increase in range and more power via an update to both the batteries and the electric motor.
Firstly, even if you are a hardcore petrol head, it's very, very hard to not fall for the charms of an EV, especially around town. Like the instant throttle response, or I should say the instant torque response from the engine, makes it just incredibly enjoyable. Like all the time, it's really fun to nip around. It just, it responds so easily. Even in terms of this car, like this doesn't feel like it's lost any of its urge after a few years and thousands of kilometers either. Like obviously it's not a performance car as such, and it can run out of puff on the freeway a little bit, but for suburban and metropolitan driving, spot on. Now, the regen braking can freak a few people out initially when driving because you can operate the car on one pedal. Basically, what I mean is you can use the deceleration to help you brake and also recharge the battery. So unlike a normal car where you lift off and the car just continues to coast, when you lift off in this, it slows the car down like you're braking. The problem for a lot of people is that the problem comes when you get back into a normal car because you lift off expecting the car to brake, then it doesn't. I should mention as well, like the amount of regen braking you have can be adjusted in this car. You can turn it off completely, but I should note that with no regen braking, that's going to have an impact on your range. But even the way it just steers and handles in general is just perfectly suited to this environment. Like it's really easy to judge all the parameters. Like, again, it's genuinely fun. Again, for this kind of an environment, it's perfect. Then you've got the sound, or I should say the lack thereof sound. Look, this particular car, there are no rattles, there are no squeaks, but the problem with electric cars in general and the lack of sound is that everything that you put in it, it rattles like it's a live concert. So yeah, be careful what you put in here because the rattling isn't the car's problem, it's your problem. So look, overall, this thing, it still does the whole EV driving experience really, really well, but at the same time, it does just driving around like a really nice normal car perfectly as well. Well, the first thing you notice is that you sit quite high in this. It almost feels like a little SUV, not only compared to the road, but everything in here, like the armrest and the center console, it all feels quite low. So if you're expecting like a hatchback kind of vibe, no, it's like a little SUV. Secondly, design-wise, this is where the whole I'm an electric car, but I don't want to be an electric car kind of thing comes in, because I think with EVs now, we're used to these things having super modern, minimalist kind of designs, but this just feels like a little Nissan SUV. Also, piano black plastic. Look, manufacturers, I know it looks great when it's new. It looks amazing on the website, but in reality, it's shit, okay? Like this isn't too bad because the car's not that old and hasn't got that many Ks on it, but I've seen these interiors with lots of Ks on them and all of this just scratches up, same as here. Also, the steering wheel leather, like again, this car hasn't been around for long, but it's already getting a little bit on the shiny side. Besides that, the rest of the wear and tear isn't too bad. The seats are quite good, and there's a few marks and stuff on the door cards here, but overall, not bad wear and tear. I should mention, but the models that have the leather seats, they do feel noticeably more premium. Now, in terms of practicality, you've got a decent little cubby hole here in the center console. You've got two cup holders here. You've got a spot for your phone, which is great because it's actually angled down quite steeply. So if you're accelerating or doing any illegal street racing in this, the phone's not going to go flying away anywhere. excellent size glove box there, and good size door bins as well for your redriven water bottle and whatever else. And also there's a spot for life's filth and secrets down there. Now in the back seat, I'm exactly 18,880 leaf thicknesses tall. This is in my driving position and it is so comfy back here. Heaps of room. The glass house feels quite spacious, so I don't feel claustrophobic at all. And the seats are really, really comfy, and you do sit quite high. So bloody comfy back here. But weirdly, this car has a pretty bloody huge transmission tunnel. There's no transmission running through there, and I'm pretty sure the battery pack makes up the floor, so I don't know why they've got the transmission tunnel. Obviously it's for, you know, structural rigidity, all that sort of stuff, but bloody annoying. As far as wear and tear goes, way better than up front, because I think no one's ever actually sat back here, so it basically feels like a new car. As far as practicality in the back seat goes, you've got 2 redriven water bottle holders in the doors and 2 redriven script holders behind the seats. That's about it. No air vents, no pull down armrest. That's it for practicality. And in terms of practicality in the boot, well, it is bloody huge back here, at least in terms of the size of the particular car. But in saying that, there are some problems. First of all, the load lip here is massive. So if you're lifting any heavy luggage out of the back of it, that's going to be a pain in the neck. Also, some leaves have a Bose sound box here, and that can kind of eat into the area and also can get scratched up pretty easily. Also, the seats, they do fold down, but they don't fold flat, and you're left with this enormous load lip here. Well, it's not really a load lip, but you've got this enormous kind of barrier to sliding things in here. So yes, it's practical in the boot, but not perfect. Well, firstly, it's important to know that the Leaf, when brand new here in Australia, is not a cheap car. We're talking $50,000 to $60,000 when new. We'll get to the used prices later in the video. But at that price, you would be expecting, you know, the upper end of tech and features and safety. And it sort of has it.
The Leaf will come packing 17-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, rain-sensing wipers, front and rear parking sensors, and a very low-resolution reversing camera outside.
While inside,
the seats are 6-way adjustable and wrapped in a leather and suede sort of fabric, plus both the front and rear seats are heated, as is the steering wheel. You'll also receive climate control, remote central locking, push-button start, and a trip computer, while infotainment is taken care of via an 8-inch touchscreen with satellite navigation, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Bluetooth connectivity, voice recognition, and a pretty decent-sounding 7-speaker Bose stereo.
You also get some digital instrument displays as well. But look, in terms of safety, the Leaf has received a full 5-star ANCAP safety rating. But to take you through all of the safety features that this thing has, I'm going to do another voiceover. But as this car is all about caring for those inside and outside, I'm going to do this voiceover in like a calming meditation voice.
Hello there. The Leaf will keep you cozy, snug and secure with 6 airbags, anti-lock brakes, electronic stability control, forward collision warning, autonomous emergency braking, lane intervention, blind spot warnings, rear cross traffic alert, a driver fatigue alert, traffic sign recognition, traction control, not that you'll ever need that, and seatbelts with pretensioners and load limiters, which basically mean that the Leaf wants to hug and hold you tight if the worst were to happen.
But for the full breakdown of what tech features and safety equipment these have, just jump on redriven.com and check out that cheat sheet. But what about those variants and updates? Well, initially the Leaf was available here in Australia in just the single trim spec, but recently, in 2021, Nissan introduced the E+ to the range. Basically, it looks almost exactly the same as this, but it has more power, more torque from a more dense battery, but more importantly, it has more range and a faster charge time.
In terms of updates, Australia is receiving the first 2023 updated Leaf models as we speak, but just don't expect any major changes because the updates are only skin deep.
But with the new models being basically the same car as the old models under the skin, if you buy a used one, what actually goes wrong with them? Now, the good news is because these have a 5-year warranty, the vast majority are still covered under some factory support. So if something were to go wrong, hopefully Nissan will look after it. Also, a massive shout out to all of the Leaf owners groups and Nissan technicians we spoke to when researching what goes wrong with these cars. If it wasn't for you guys, we couldn't put this video together, so thank you so much. Also, speaking of the owners, look, we generally find that it's the owners of these cars that know, the most about them. They're the true experts. And with Redriven, we're trying to make it a community platform of knowledge on used cars. So if you do own one of these and you've noticed that we've missed something major in the video, please let us know in the comments. First up, Faulty reversing cameras. There are plenty of reports out there that these things' visibility are terrible or just non-existent at all. The good news is, but hopefully it can be fixed up with a software update from Nissan. Now, if the Nissan Leaf you're looking at has a sunroof, there are reports that that sunroof can crack and even shatter into pieces. You can normally tell it's coming from a rattle, but again, the good news is Nissan should sort it out. Next up, beautiful piano black plastic. Looks great when it's new, but after a while, it starts to do this and looks a bit gross and ugly. Now, there are reports of these things randomly breaking, especially on 2018 models. Basically, it's due to a faulty or overly sensitive AEB sensor. The problem is it doesn't, break smoothly, it just jams on the anchors, so it can be very concerning. Also, there was a recall regarding a problem with selecting park, so make sure that recall has been seen to. Now, before we get to mechanically or electronically what can go wrong with these things, look, the only way that we can keep making these videos for you guys is with your support, and the easiest way to support us is simply by hitting the like, subscribe and bell buttons and sharing our content as much as you can. Doing all that, honestly, it would help us out so much. Okay, now mechanically or electronically, what goes wrong with these? Look, I'd love to tell you, but I'm not a qualified mechanic, but you know what? Jim is.
By far, the biggest problem with these are their batteries. See, Nissan Leafs, or Leaves, they only have air cooling for the batteries, where a lot of other electric vehicles have liquid cooling. And lithium-ion batteries and heat are not friends. So in a hot climate like Australia, this can have a significant effect on the battery's range and longevity. Now, if you're looking to buy one, you can actually check the condition of the battery. If you look at the dash, you can actually see the remaining bars on the battery life. Now, that's not the percentage of charge it has, it's the narrow bars to the right. Typically 10 bars or more and the battery's okay. Anything less than it's probably walk away. The later models, it's a similar thing. You can just scroll through the instrument cluster pages until you find the bars. So basically what you're looking for is 10 bars or more. Now, if the battery is at the end of its life, it can be changed, but it's not cheap. Nissan Australia do an exchange batteries program where it's about $10,000 to change it over. It might vary from dealership to dealership. The other option you might be able to go with is a second-hand option, but those cars in Australia are not very common, so it's not really possible. But in other regions where they are popular, second-hand batteries and even upgraded batteries are a viable option. Engines and drivelines, or should I say motors, they virtually never fail. They don't have gearboxes, so nothing to worry about there. And even the brakes on them, because regen braking is doing most of the work, the brake pads usually last about 3 or 4 times longer than in a conventional car. But if you should buy one, how much are they?
Good question, mate. Currently here in Australia, these things kick off at around about $35,000 and top out at around about $65,000. This one being a 2018 in pretty good condition with decent amount of Ks on it, around about 40 grand. But what do they cost to own and operate? Nissan claims 17 to 18 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks, and as far as range goes, they also claim this one to have 270 kilometers and the E-Plus 385. But through our research, we found that how much range these actually have really depends on your driving style and where you're driving it. Around town using a lot of regen braking, the range is really, really good, but out on a freeway and especially up, long hills, hello range anxiety. Now, in saying that, this particular car driving around town with regen braking, it can easily go a week without charging it. Speaking of charging it, the Leaf has 2 charging ports, a Type 2 AC and a CHAdeMO DC port, plus it can even output charge. Now, in terms of charging times, get ready to hit pause for a graphic in a second, because if I try to explain this, it would be really, really boring. You ready? Go. Okay, but after all of that, should you buy one? Well, at current used Leaf asking prices, it does have some stiff competition to consider.
At the lower end of the pricing spectrum, you could have a 2019 Hyundai Ioniq, a 2021 MG ZS EV, or even a 2014 or 2015 BMW i3, which, like the Leaf, all have their positives and negatives.
For example,
the Leaf is arguably more visually appealing than the Ioniq, the MG has a few question marks hanging over it in terms of quality and longevity, and the BMW is a fair chunk smaller.
But at the upper end of the Leaf pricing range,
the competition becomes extremely tempting with the likes of the 2022 Hyundai Kona Electric, the 2021 Mazda MX-30, and even 2021 Tesla Model 3s.
And with that lineup, you would really, really want to love a Leaf to buy it over the Tesla, the Kona, or the MX-30.
However, while the Leaf does make for a great car in general, if you should buy one really comes down to how long you intend to keep it for.
Look, if you're thinking about buying one for like a short-term period of time, like say 3 to 5 years, yeah, sure, buy one, great thing. But keeping it any longer than that, might be risky because there are still quite a few question marks hovering over the longevity of these battery packs. So, would you buy a Leaf or would you buy one of the competition? Let us know in the comments below. Oh, remember, can you please hit those like, subscribe and bell buttons and share our content as much as you can? That'd be bloody awesome. See you next week. Researching this car. Without you guys, we couldn't have put this video together. You guys have been awesome. Yep, my voice cracked because I'm going through puberty at the moment. Okay, this particular car driving around town with Regina. Okay, let us know in the comments and can never say remember.